In 1859, a clock tower rose above Westminster, 316 feet of stone, iron, and glass. Inside hung a 13-ton bell that would give London its voice. These are original paintings, engravings, and photographs taken during the tower's construction between 1843 and 1859, carefully restored and colorized. For more than a century, these moments existed only in black and white. Now, we can see Big Ben as its builders saw it. The story begins with fire. On the evening of October 16, 1834, the old Palace of Westminster was consumed by flames. Two Irish laborers had spent the entire day burning cartloads of medieval accounting records in coal furnaces beneath the House of Lords. The furnaces could not handle wood's high flame. By late afternoon, visitors complained about the heat rising through the floor. Shortly after 6 p.m., flames burst through the scarlet curtains of the Lord's chamber. Within 30 minutes, a fireball had exploded through the roof. The River Thames was at extreme low tide, crippling the fire engine's ability to pump water. Firefighters focused on saving Westminster Hall. Its 600-year-old hammer-beam roof survived. The rest did not. St. Stephen's Chapel, the Commons Chamber, the Lord's Chamber, and most of the medieval palace were destroyed. Uninsured damage reached £2 million. The Prime Minister called it one of the greatest instances of stupidity upon record. The painter J.M.W. Turner witnessed the blaze from a rented boat on the Thames. He filled 2 sketchbooks with studies and produced 2 major oil paintings of the Inferno. A royal commission announced an open architectural competition in 1835. 97 entries arrived. 4 commissioners examined them in the charred Speaker's House. In February 1836, the winner was revealed as Charles Barry. His design proposed a Gothic palace running parallel to the Thames, anchored by a grand Victoria Tower at the south and a clock tower at the north. But the Gothic detailing that made the entry sing was the work of Augustus Welby Pugin, a 23-year-old Catholic architect who had already designed churches, furniture, and the interiors of the Houses of Lords. Barry paid him £400 for the competition drawings. The collaboration was uneasy. Pugin resented Barry's essentially classical layout. He told an acquaintance, "All Grecian, sir. Tudor details on a classic body." The clock tower was his last design. His health collapsed. He was committed to Bethlehem Hospital and died in September 1852, aged 40. Barry's wife laid the palace foundation stone on April 27, 1840. He estimated completion in 6 years at just under £725,000. The project would ultimately take 26 years and cost over £2 million. Construction of the clock tower began when its foundation stone was laid on September 28, 1843. The construction method had never been attempted at this scale. The tower was built from the inside out. Londoners watched it rise without seeing a single worker or piece of scaffolding on the exterior. The finished tower stands 316 feet tall on a base 40 feet square. In 1844, Barry asked Benjamin Vulliamy, the Queen's clockmaker, to design the mechanism, but Sir George Airy, the Astronomer Royal, set an extraordinary specification. The first stroke of each hour must be accurate to within 1 second of Greenwich Mean Time. At the time, a church clock accurate to within a minute per week was considered excellent. Airy's demand seemed impossible. 7 years of squabbling followed. No acceptable design was produced. Into this deadlock stepped Edmund Beckett Denison, a wealthy barrister and amateur horologist, by all accounts, brilliant and insufferable. One historian described him as arrogant, bombastic, and spiteful. By February 1852, Denison had produced an entirely new design. His key innovation was the double 3-legged gravity escapement. It isolated the pendulum from the clock mechanism entirely. Previous tower clocks transmitted impulses directly to the pendulum. Wind pressure on the massive hands would alter accuracy. Denison's design used weighted gravity arms that fell under their own constant weight, the force of gravity, unaffected by anything happening to the hands above. This was the most significant advance in tower clock horology of the 19th century. Edward John Dent won the contract to build the clock in 1852 for £2,500. He died in 1853. His stepson, Frederick Dent, completed the mechanism in 1854. The finished clock sat in Dent's factory for 5 years, waiting for the tower to be completed. 3 foundries tendered for the bell contract. John Warner and Sons won. The first bell was cast on August 6, 1856, at Warner's foundry in Norton, near Stockton-on-Tees. It weighed approximately 16 tons. On October 21, 1856, the bell arrived at Westminster, drawn across Westminster Bridge by 16 horses to cheering crowds. Since the tower was unfinished, it was hung on a wooden gantry in New Palace Yard and tested each Saturday for public entertainment. Denison tested it with a hammer weighing 1,485 pounds. On October 17, 1857, disaster struck. A crack 4 feet long split up from the rim. When a candle was carried inside the bell, light shone through the metal. Denison blamed Warner's for casting the waste too thick. Warner's blamed Denison's overly heavy hammer. The bell was irreparable. In February 1858, a wrecking ball was dropped repeatedly until the bell was reduced to fragments. George Mears of Whitechapel Bell Foundry cast the replacement on April 10, 1858. It weighed 13 tons, 10 hundredweight, and 15 pounds. The bell was loaded onto a trolley and drawn by 16 white horses through London streets from Whitechapel to Westminster. To pass vertically up the tower shaft, the bell was turned on its side, placed in a wooden cradle, and winched 200 feet up the ventilation shaft by 8 men. The process took 30 hours. The bell reached the belfry in October 1858. The great clock began ticking on May 31, 1859. Big Ben first struck the hours on July 11, 1859. The reception was not universally rapturous. One commentator wrote, "The noise which it makes is so unearthly, sepulchral, and miserable that one would suppose it was tolling the funeral dirge of the whole human race. It is voted a bore by general assent, but its sound quickly became London's defining voice." Then, barely 2 months later, the second bell cracked too. A fissure appeared near the rim. Rather than endure another years-long recasting, the Astronomer Royal proposed an ingenious repair. A small square of metal was chipped from around the crack. The bell was rotated 90 degrees so the hammer struck undamaged metal. A lighter hammer replaced Denison's original. Big Ben returned to service with its distinctive, slightly imperfect tone, and has rung with that same cracked voice ever since. The bell was likely named for Sir Benjamin Hall, the first commissioner of works who oversaw its installation. He stood 6 feet 7 inches tall and was affectionately known in the house as Big Ben. The Times of October 22, 1856 reported, "It is proposed to call our King of Bells Big Ben in honor of Sir Benjamin Hall." Charles Barry died on May 12, 1860, aged 64. A heart attack at his Clapham Common home, widely attributed to exhaustion from the project. He was buried in Westminster Abbey. His son Edward completed the palace by 1870. What began as bureaucratic arson in the furnaces beneath the Lords became, through accident and ambition, the world's most recognizable timekeeper.